Welcome to the Body and Brew series. I have with me a sticky chai tea with some homemade almond milk, and we're going to sit back and get into overthinking. So first, find yourself a comfy space, brew your hot beverage of choice, and let's get into it. You know what I find so interesting about overthinking, like being the overthinker, and this is coming from someone who is an overthinker, is that when you're overthinking, you often already know the answer, but you're just waiting for permission. You know what I mean? Like often when you're overthinking, it's like you already know in your heart and soul, even if it's unconscious at that point, what the answer is. But it's like you're almost distracting yourself with your mind and like stalling to get to the part where it's like, oh, that's what I want to do. Like it's like you need to overanalyze, over conceptualize, and hear and validate what you already know is true and what you already know you're going to decide on, if it's like a decision-based thing when it comes to overthinking. When really it's like you don't need that permission. You don't need the overthinking and overcomplicating things. Something that I've tended to do throughout my life is overthink and to mull on something for far too long before taking action. But then I had this other aspect of me where if it feels really, really right, usually after I've been thinking about it for a long time, like, oh, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? And then I find it, then it's like instant action. And I just like jumped right into it. But it's like those moments leading up to the part where I jump in, where there's the overthinking, the overanalyzing. And like, I'm quite a deep person. Those of you who've been following me for a while now know this, that like a lot of the content that I post is quite deep. And that part I like that part of me, the part of me that gets curious, that wants to do research, that wants to experience and live things and talk about the lived experience. But that's kind of exactly the point, is that I'm coming from that somatic lens of embodiment and things that I've experienced. Whereas previously I was purely an academic and it was all just concepts and theory and mind, and then applying it in a very structured and methodical way when it came to like clinical practice of, you know, myotherapy, chiropractics, for example, which is what I used to do previous to this. But when we're body led, we kind of skip over all that confusion, all that overthinking. We don't wait for permission. We just go with what our body and our intuition, what our whole body is wanting. And it comes from a place of a deeper knowing. And that's where that depth comes in. That's what I really value about my curious mind. And I think I used to confuse it a lot with the overthinking path. And I think the real question here is like, when we're in those moments of overthinking, when we know we already know the answer, we know we don't actually need the permission, we're just stalling to do it because we're afraid for whatever reason or feel resistance for whatever reason. The real question to ask in that moment is, what do I already know that I'm avoiding? Start to query into what that resistance is. And that's actually a somatic cue you can use. What do I already know in my deeper truth for me that I'm avoiding? And so that's like querying into your body. When you let that question land in your body, how do you feel? What's the resistance there? What's the sensations that come through that feel stuck or icky or, you know, not nice? Those start to bubble up, and it's not like we want to start to live into those feelings and sensations, but it's like we can get curious with that. Why are they there? Do they need to be there? We can get curious with that. Oh, that's there. Is it really going to affect my decision and the situation that I'm overthinking about? Or can I bypass that ick feeling or let go of that ick feeling completely, look at processing through it with some somatic practices and just go ahead and do it without the need for my internal permission from all my boundaries and walls that I put up to get it from A to B, you know, when it comes to decision making especially, but just anything that we're choosing to do in life or any path that we're walking in life. You know, we delay the decisions thinking that the clarity will come later, but the body often already knows. Like, I'm saying often, I mean, in my experience, every single freaking time that I tune into my body already knows. And so like that overthinking is really just a disconnect from our truth, our whole truth, as in our whole body, not just the mind, you know, because the mind, it can be a bit of a boundary. The longer we wait, the quieter the body becomes. And that's where we start to really disconnect from our truth. When we disconnect from our body, we disconnect from our truth. And so here's some somatic prompts that you can put in. I know I've already given you an example of a cue, which was asking, you know, what do I already know that I'm avoiding? That's like a good one to start with. But to really instill this wisdom and everything I'm talking about, especially if you're an overthinker, when you find yourself, this is like when you'd want to integrate it and do the practice. The integration cue is when you find yourself overthinking on making a decision or walking a certain path in this life. We can come back to these somatic prompts that I'm about to provide for you. And so as I start to say these prompts, just take some time to land into your body. You might want to close down your eyes as I'm asking you these questions and notice first and foremost how that lands in your body, how that feels in your body. First and foremost over your thoughts, because we're aiming to get out of the overthinking. So when I ask you a question, become body-led. Drop into the anchor of your breath. We can do that right now. Close down the eyes. Allow the awareness to go inwards. This is why we soften or close down the eyes in the first place. Notice your breath. Notice your feet on the ground beneath you. Drop in. And I'm going to ask you a few questions. Notice how they land in your body. First question, what decision have I been circling? What decision have I been circling? Just looping around in limbo there. Notice how that feels in your body. Notice what sensations arrive outside of the thoughts. And if thoughts come in, that's totally fine. Allow them to come and go. Allow them to pass like clouds floating through the sky in the background. What decision have I been circling? And then question number 2, following from everything that arrived in the first question and considering all of that, staying dropped in and anchored in, I'm going to ask you, what does your body have to say about these sensations? What does your body have to express to you? What wisdom lies there within these sensations? In other words, that decision you've been circling, what does your body want to do with that? And just let that land inside your body through sensations. And then as you come out of that space of allowing your body to respond to those somatic cues, I would recommend that you integrate further by acting on that one small body-led decision, like in that moment. Or if you've actually done this practice with me right now, this micro practice, act on that. Act on what your body communicated to you. Honor what your body has to say. You know, the language of your body is very wise and very ancient, and I believe we need to honor that first and foremost when we're making decisions in life. So what is one small action that your body wants to do today based on those 2 somatic cues? So yeah, if decisions feel overwhelming and you catch yourself overthinking, those are the 2 main somatic cues you can ask. And you can start to query into that or flag that when you start noticing yourself asking like, what am I avoiding? Or what do I already know that I'm avoiding? And that's when you can cue yourself to go in. You know, when you find yourself overthinking and asking yourself, what am I avoiding here? What's that resistance here? And I'm going to drop a couple resources in the caption below as well. So I hope this helps you with your body-led healing journey. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know what I mean by that. And if this is your first time catching me on my channel, welcome, and let me know what you think about that micro practice and our little tea brew.